So look, Mom, I'm failing. Look, Mom, I'm failing. Look, Mom, I'm failing. Hurry up and watch me fall.
Okay, here we go. What is going on, everyone? Sam McNeil here, coming to you with a solo episode of Look, Mum, I'm Failing, powered by the good people at Song Division, the podcast where we celebrate setbacks, failures, stuff-ups, challenges, catastrophes, and more in the pursuit of ways to endure and maybe even enjoy the process of failure. I'm your host, Sam McNeil, General Manager at Song Division, all-round bloody legend, singer, songwriter, entertainer, ball of positivity, absolute rock star. That's all in the script, so you have to read that. And I'm excited for this one. It is a solo episode, as I said. For those playing at home or those who listen regularly, you will know that each alternate episode I have a guest or two guests on. They might be creative full-time artists, musicians, singers, songwriters, photographers, journalists, comedians, and more, and also business leaders and owners, entrepreneurs, and the like. And then on alternate weeks, I do a little thing we're calling 3 Things on Failure, solo episode, where I'll be sharing some cool data, articles, research, books, and more around failure, and also a little segment I'm coming to enjoy called Story Time with Sam. This week's no different. So I've got a great article or a thought piece from an incredible human called Amy Bran. It's around the neuroscience of doing the hard thing. I have an amazing podcast recommendation and a human recommendation because I'm a big fan of this guy. He's a big inspiration for me professionally, and he's agreed to come on the podcast in a few weeks. So we'll be talking about Jason Allan-Scott and his new podcast. And finally, story time with Sam. I'm excited. That's an opportunity for me or others to share a story from their own career where they've stuffed up or learnt something the hard way or made an error or just been challenged and how we dealt with that. And we got my first contribution from the great Kitty Small. More on that soon. Let's get into it. Okay, this week's first thing comes from someone called Amy Bran. Now, Amy Bran's LinkedIn headline says, Unlocking People Potential at Work Through Neuroscience and Behavioral Science. She runs a company called Synaptic Potential. They specialize in equipping organizations with the knowledge that success hinges on their people's well-being, mindset, resilience, creativity, engagement, and motivation define the organization's health and directly influence its success. I don't know if I could agree with a statement more than that. I'm going to read that again. Mindset, resilience, creativity, engagement, and motivation define the organization's health and directly influence success. What a beautifully succinct way to say what I've felt for years. This is from her bi-weekly newsletter called Brain Up. Now, a bit of context, we know Amy Bran at Song Division because she helped us develop our very exciting 6-module, part learning and development, part immersive team bonding program called Team Harmony. Team Harmony focuses on 6 pillars that we believe are required to run a more harmonious and high-performing team. Things like engagement, storytelling, feedback, creativity, team cohesion, and more. So we worked very closely with her to build that program. So big fan of Amy over here at Song Division. And like I said, this article is called Finding Drive, the Neuroscience of Doing the Hard Thing. Why I love this article, we all agree that sometimes the exact same job might seem more difficult on one day than it does on another day. And I think what I enjoy anyway is finding ways to understand why do we feel the way we feel on certain days? Why are we less motivated? And there's, of course, a lot of science and neuroscience behind that. So thank you, Amy, because this article unlocked a lot for me. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want to dive into it a little bit because it's so good. So just to set the scene, the very first paragraph. Here's today's big question. When was the last time you found yourself stuck in that frustrating place where you knew that there was something you needed to do, but you just couldn't get yourself started? Hands up if you've got your hand up right now. That's a common problem for me. I'm not going to lie. Getting started, feeling the motivation to do a job, putting it off. And as you put it off, the job seems even bigger and harder. She talks about that. So I just want to find a couple more parts of this article that I really loved. Oh, I love this part. Motivation is not a character flaw or willpower problem. It's a prediction problem. Our brain is constantly calculating when we do a job. How rewarding will this feel? How uncomfortable will this be? Is the effort worth the cost? This is stuff that's going on unconsciously often, so we don't even know we're thinking about it. But that is actually why we do or don't do a job. It's got nothing to do with our willpower or how motivated we are as humans. I loved that. This part's really interesting too. Have you ever had that moment where you think the hard thing right now will make me feel better later, but the easy option right now will make me feel worse later? Well, that's something that Amy talks about. There's two options when deciding to do a job or not. Avoidance offers short-term relief, a brief reduction in the threat when we decide not to act, but that relief is temporary. The task remains active in working memory. The brain keeps revisiting it. And so on and so forth. So we're actually now occupying a disproportionate amount of mental space to the job. On the flip side, action is uncomfortable too because it requires effort and sometimes vulnerability. But action changes the brain's prediction because the moment we begin, uncertainty reduces, dopamine increases as progress becomes visible, the prefrontal cortex regains a sense of control, cognitive load drops. I'm going to leave it there because otherwise I'll just end up reading the whole article out. But what I love about Amy's work is it's so digestible for anyone. You don't need to be a neuroscientist to understand what she's talking about. I highly recommend you follow her on LinkedIn, subscribe to Brain Up, her bi-weekly newsletter, and definitely follow Synaptic Potential as well. Shout out to you, Amy. You are an absolute legend. Okay, number two. So this was originally going to be a podcast recommendation. I've turned it into what I'm calling a human recommendation because this guy is an incredible human. I'm going to say he's a bit of an enigma. I'm talking about a guy called Jason Allan-Scott. He's achieved a whole lot over his life and his career, a pretty incredible story. So he wears a lot of hats. Almost a bit of a hard guy to describe in a few sentences. So I'm actually going to read his little about section on LinkedIn just to paint a picture for you about Jason Allan-Scott. The path I've walked. Built 11 companies with 9 successful exits across 3 continents. 7-figure solo founder, featured twice in Forbes, invited to 10 Downing Street for entrepreneurial impact, delivered 220 plus talks worldwide, Google, Oxford, Rutgers, and more. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, which is embarrassing for me. Sold 2 podcast shows and ran a 7-figure podcast empire with no staff or advertising. Now I help founders get clients and authority without becoming full-time media companies. Yeah, so that's just a taste of the kind of guy that Jason is. Very, very motivating, got great energy, knows what he's talking about from both learning and his own experience. And that's what leads me on to the podcast. So he decided at the start of this year he was going to create a podcast, and within a month have it get a top ranking across the UK in the podcast charts. He's achieved that already. The show is called The Jason Allan-Scott Show. Very quickly, again, a quick about. It's a weekly exploration of entrepreneurship as a philosophy rather than a hustle. Freaking love that. Each episode studies history's great founders to unpack how real builders thought about leverage, specific knowledge, accountability, and long-term value creation. Drawing from biographies and context, the show distills timeless, practical insights for building useful things that solve real problems. Influenced by Naval Ravikant, it treats entrepreneurship as a moral act rooted in responsibility, clear thinking, and long-term impact. This podcast is great. It's a solo podcast. It's just presented by Jason Allan-Scott. It's kind of what I wanted these episodes to be, stories of setbacks, challenges, failures, but it's done so beautifully, and it's more long form. The episodes sort of range between around 30 minutes to about an hour in general. I'm on to my 3rd episode. I'm not personally listening sequentially in order that they've been released. I'm currently listening to The Relentless Pursuit and the Legacy of Sam Walton and the Philosophy that Built Walmart. I have also enjoyed the episode on John D. Rockefeller, Ruthless Strategy, Turning Competition into Consolidation. Listened to that yesterday. Absolutely loved it. And the first one I listened to, where is it? It was the the Disney one. Yeah, the betrayal that built an empire. Walt Disney's $175,000 lesson. He's just a very, very easy human to listen to, Jason. He's a storyteller. He builds them so beautifully. He tells the story in acts 1, 2, and 3. It's very digestible. If you are a business leader or a aspiring full-time creative artist looking to learn from other people's mistakes, this is the podcast for you. Absolutely loving it, and very, very excited to say that Jason has agreed to come on the podcast. We'll be recording that in a couple of weeks. Can't wait to share more information about Jason, his story. I cannot recommend you enough. Obviously, you can pay Jason to consult on your own business and if you are starting a podcast. But if you're not in a position to do that just yet, just by following him on LinkedIn, I know he's quite active on X, and listening to his podcast, you will be making thousands of dollars in stuff that people pay for just by listening to what he says and doing what he says. He maps out business plans. One thing I've really loved about the Rockefeller episode is he encourages everyone to map out where are the bottlenecks in their industry and how can you fill them. Can't speak highly enough about this guy. Jason, you're a legend if you're listening. Thank you for providing so much value, education, motivation, and doing it for me in a beautifully entertaining and digestible way. Okay, well, this is exciting. If you've been listening to my solo episodes, you'll know I've been doing something called Story Time with Sam, sharing some stories from my own life and career, setbacks, stuff-ups, bad decision-making on my part. I've talked about getting arrested after winning a big industry award, talked about my toughest ever Song Division event, and I've put the word out there that I would love to hear from you. Share a story, send me an email, send me a voice memo. And this is very exciting because I've got my first contributor, and it's none other than the great Kitty Small, owner and founder of Miva, my venue assistant, and also happens to be my amazing, beautiful wife. Happy Valentine's Day, by the way, for yesterday. How are you, Kit Dog?
Hi, I'm good. Wow, what an introduction.
So this is going to be fun. You told me this story yesterday over our romantic lunch. It's a cracker. So you're going to tell the story of the time you basically sort of stood up. Was it the CEO of AA?
It was the managing director of the AA.
Of the AA. So just for some context, the AA is it the rating company?
Yeah, so you know when you go to a hotel and you see a star rating for a hotel, so 5-star, 4-star, you'll see a plaque outside, yeah, and it's rated by the AA, and they generally go and do audits of these hotels and check that they have a certain star rating.
Okay, so give us some context. What year was it? How long ago was this?
Do you know, I still got trauma about this, talking about it, and I think it's probably about, I want to say 5 to 7 years ago.
Okay.
I still feel sick thinking about it.
I can see you curled up talking about it right now. You were working at BVA?
Yes.
Just explain what your job was.
Yeah, at the time I worked for a great company called BVA BDRC. They are now part of Ipsos, and they are a research consultancy. And my job there, I specialised in hospitality, and I was running customer experience programs for hotel brands, and specialising in meeting and events. Mm-hmm. But a big part of my job was running audits for hotels. So I would run those programs all around the world, work with the big hotel brands like your Hiltons, your Marriotts, etc. And
when you say audit, just for the layman out there like me, you would go and like a secret shopper kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, so there was various programs that I would run under customer experience, but one of them was overnight audits as a mystery guest. So I would run those programs, but I would generally work on behalf of the brands. So they would commission us to work for them, and we would roll out audits that would monitor and check their brand standards and that kind of thing, and report back to head office. Whereas having an introduction to the AA was sort of a bit like the golden ticket. I know my bosses at the time, they were really keen to start working with the AA if we could get an angle in there. And, my job was not just to run these programs, but also I did some business development for the company, and obviously I wanted to win new work. So getting the opportunity to try and work with the AA and do audits on their behalf for their programs would have been a huge milestone and a massive sale and win for me.
And you said like no one's ever managed to get a meeting with this guy.
I think
in your
when
world.
I don't know, it's tough to say, and I look back and I can't quite remember. It's a little bit a bit shady, but I think at the time it was sort of nobody'd had an in with them before, and I'd managed to somehow, I can't even remember how, but I'd managed to get an introduction to the MD at the AA. And
that went well.
Yeah, so I had a meeting at the Claremont in Victoria, a lovely property, and I went and I think we just had a coffee, and he had a spare half an hour, managed to somehow grab some time in his diary, and we just sat down and had a little chat and talked about what I did and what I ran for BVA at the time. And there was some initial interest about working together and how we could work together going forward. So it was a really great meeting.
Good meeting.
Couldn't believe it.
Kitty did good.
I did good. I don't know how. But at the end of the meeting, he said something like, we have our annual awards, and I'd love it if you were able to come to the awards. And I thought, oh wow, that's great. Got this invite. This is where they give out the awards to the hotels.
Yeah, the ratings.
And then I think there's also special awards for going the extra mile. And I don't know.
I'm picturing like the Michelin star of hotels.
Basically, it's like the Michelin awards for the hotels.
Love it. So it's a big deal. And he said you told me, he said, I'd love you to be my guest. Come as my guest.
I want to say he said, oh, come as my guest, but I just thought,
it's been nice.
He said, I'll it was sort of a bit of a parting invite comment at the end, and he said, oh, my PA will be in touch, and I walked away, and I first of all was super happy that this meeting had gone really well, and I sort of maybe took that with a bit of a pinch of salt. But yeah, anyway, ultimately he technically invited me to the awards as his guest.
Okay. So what happens next? You get an email. Oh God. You get an email from his assistant or something, or she asks you your details.
I think, again, I can't quite remember exactly what happened, but either I or his PA, there was an initial email to begin with, straight after this meeting that we'd had in follow-up, because I wanted to follow up, obviously, on the sort of business lead, so to speak, and remain in contact and that relationship. And I think there was something in the email that mentioned about the awards or something around, we'll be in touch with an invite or something.
or what do you give us your details or something?
Yeah, that was it. It was can you provide your details for an invite to the awards as Simon's guest? Okay. Oh gosh.
So you don't take any note of the date, don't put anything in your own calendar, and just and then never receive an actual invite. Is that right?
Yeah. So basically, fast forward a couple of months. Oh God!
State the scene, because you don't live in London.
I wasn't living in London at the time. I lived about 2.5 hours outside of London. Anyway, fast forward a couple of months. You know what it's like, this treadmill of work. We're all so busy. On to the next thing. Blum 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 blum. I'd been very busy at work. I was always busy in that job. And fast forward a couple of months, and it's a Monday night. It must have been winter because it was dark at dinner time. And I remember my boss, James, called me, and it was, I don't know, like 6:30, 7 o'clock on a Monday night, which was very unusual. We didn't really speak out of hours. And I thought, and I was like, oh, hi, James, how are you? And he said, oh, well, where are you? And I said, I'm at home. He's like, right. So I've just had a phone call from a mutual...
like an industry friend or a colleague.
Yeah. And they're expecting you at the AA Awards tonight. Can you get there? And I said, and my stomach just dropped.
Oh.
And I went, well, I'm probably about 2.5 hours away without even getting ready or getting out the door. And probably not. It's probably going to be well into the event, if not towards the end, for me to even get there into London. And I was like, and I just had that moment when you go, oh my God, they're expecting me at this awards. And
but not only that, you were, go on.
Yeah. Well, and then he said, well, the thing is, you've got a space, like you're seated next to
the MD.
To the MD.
On the main table.
On the table, and you've not arrived.
And your name's on there.
And they're going to have to clear your seat away. I wanted to vomit. I think I had tears in my eyes. I was shaking. I felt sick. I thought, oh my God, I'd been invited to this event. I mean, I almost thought that it wasn't true.
Yeah, I can sort of understand why when you didn't get the official invite, you just thought, oh, he's just said it in passing. It's not real, or like I'm not going to bring it
up. And
I
think, you forget about these things. And essentially what happened was I never received an invite. Now, today we would normally I was maybe expecting something to drop into my inbox, which was like an official invite as a guest.
You can add it to your calendar, something.
And ask for my dietary requirements or whatever. And that never happened. And I guess, like I say, work and life is so fast. It went to the back of my mind. I had focused on other things and I didn't think to follow it up until I got that phone call. And then I was told, well, you're supposed to be there. And I wasn't. And I felt horrendous. Just awful.
And I want to say there's a happy ending, but you never heard, you followed up, right?
I still feel awful.
You followed up and apologised and never heard from them.
So that night, I mean, obviously, I profusely apologised to my boss at that moment on the phone. And then I said, what can I do? And I think at that point there was nothing that could be done.
You're not going to show up at 10 p.m.
No, it was just an embarrassment. Anyway, so I didn't sleep that night, felt horrendous. The first thing I did the next morning was, we were working remotely. I think it was sort of COVID-y times or just pre-COVID times maybe. And the first thing I did was I emailed my boss and my boss's boss at the time, James and Matt,
my God,
tail between my legs, saying, I feel horrendous. This is the worst moment for me in my career, that I had this opportunity. And not only that, I've stood up the MD at their awards.
The MD at their awards, that he's invited you as his guest.
And they had to clear my space away because I didn't turn up. I just no-showed. Anyway, so I wrote this email and I was shaking, I was in tears, and I was like, I'm so sorry, I don't know what I can do to make up for this. I will do anything. I'm going to contact Simon now and apologise. And I just said, I'm so sorry, I never received a proper invite. And it just obviously didn't go in my diary because I didn't get that. And I just thought it was like a bit of a passing comment. And I should have followed up, but I didn't. But I never received anything. So anyway, I straight away emailed his PA and Simon. And Simon, if you hear this, I hope you're laughing and don't hate me.
Simon is the MD?
Yes.
All right, shout out Simon. Not sure what he's up to these days, but he's probably still fuming.
Yeah, probably still fuming.
No, he's not.
Anyway, so I emailed both of them, him and his PA, immediately, and again apologised. I feel awful, but I didn't receive a proper invite, and I had no information. So, and the only response I had was from the PA that said, it was very brief, and it just sort of said, we posted it to you. So they sent a paper invite, and I never received it.
Oh, babe.
Never received it, and I still feel awful.
I could see you.
And
you're
Simon,
I know, getting a rash right now.
I know, I'm
talking
like scratching
about
my
it.
face. But he never responded to me.
He never responded,
and I think I followed up again, saying, what can I do? I'm so sorry. This is not my style. I take these kind of things really seriously, and I really let myself down. I feel awful. Yeah. I mean, talk about fuck up. That is just horrendous.
It's not great, but all I would say is we got to connect with this guy on LinkedIn. I get to get his take on it. No one died. I love it because it's a great story. Yeah, like I can see how bad you feel, but it's kind of once shit happens, and it's just a series of unfortunate events.
Yes.
And to your point, had they just emailed an invite,
I know I would have been there.
But what's the learning you told me yesterday? Is now what would you do if someone said, "Are you free on this date?"
Yeah. So
what
two
would you
things.
do?
So two things that I do now. Whenever anybody invites me to something, I will always pencil it in my diary as a TBC.
Put it in your own diary.
If somebody mentions something to me or by an email or something, I will just put a little holder in my diary that says blah 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 event TBC, and then I know as that approaches in my diary, I should just check in and is that going ahead or not. The other thing I do now as a learning is, in our industry, and particularly if you are classed as a buyer, an agency or corporate that's planning events, we are very, very lucky, and we get invited to lots of wonderful events. And there are so many. It's embarrassing.
It's insane. You should see Kitty's inbox.
It's embarrassing.
I'm privy to some of these invites. I'm a lowly supplier, so I don't get these kind of invites unless I can be a +1.
Yeah, you're like, oh, can I?
Kitty gets invited to all kinds of stuff.
All kinds of things,
It's
but-
impossible for you to respond to everyone.
To everything. So if it's sort of a mass emailed invite that you can tell, I can't always respond to some of those things because there are quite a few. And again, incredibly grateful. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm not grateful. But
Yes.
but if somebody emails me and invites me to something or a dinner or wonderful some kind of hospitality, I will always try to physically respond and thank them because it's. And most of these things I don't go to.
No,
you'll
but also
vouch for me.
you will go if you say yes or you accept an invitation.
Yeah.
A lot of buyers out there, I'm not naming and shaming anyone, to say yes to a lot of things and events that Song Division put on and other suppliers put on, and then just don't show up. And
That's the worst.
It's heartbreaking. It costs us a lot of money to put these things on. It's really frustrating. Kitty will never do that.
I would never do that.
Unless she's on death's door. She would never not
Absolutely.
show up. So,
I'd show up with my arm
especially
hanging
to
off.
a AA dinner.
Oh, but that is the one thing it taught me, and I thought, wow, somebody has gone to the level of inviting me.
Yep.
Somebody somewhere along the line has paid for me to be there, and I didn't show up. So now I am so. I'm always be very grateful, always thankful. If I can't make something, I will let somebody know, but I will always say thank you so much for even thinking of me. And that's really, really important to me. So they're my lessons learned. Mark it in your diary, even if you don't think you're going to go as a TBC, and always acknowledge and thank. And you're better off saying it's unlikely that I'm going to be able to make it if you're not quite sure.
100%.
But yeah, I'm still... Oh, I still feel awful.
Oh, it's a good one. Thank you for sharing.
No,
I appreciate that.
I mean, I have to say, I have two thoughts about even doing this because I'm so embarrassed.
No, it's a good one because no one died. Nothing too terrible happened. You just made a big mistake, a boo boo, and you've learned from it.
And I'm still sorry.
This is what we do. We
still
stuff
sorry.
up and we learn from it. I'm going to get you on the podcast at some point as a business leader and owner. Quick shameless plug, Myva. What's it all
my
about?
venue assistant. So I work with multiple agencies and corporates as an extension of your team. We plug in and we do your venue find for you. We're specialists, we're consultants. We do it all day, 24/7 globally, and we look for your business venues, for your business events. So yeah, it's fab.
Check it out, myva.world. While we're doing it, let's just wrap it up. Another shameless plug. This podcast is powered by Song Division. Amplify your culture, connect your people, and communicate big ideas via our incredible award-winning group songwriting experiences for 5,000 to 50,000 people anywhere in the world, in any language. That's my shameless plug. That's it for this week. Next week, I will be sharing an episode with Chris Gale, who is an owner of MJ and Associates, an accounting firm, and the great Mig Ayesa. Now, if you don't know Mig, you are missing a trick because he's one of the great performers on the planet, in my opinion. He came third in the INXS Rockstar Search for a New Frontman. He was the lead on Broadway's Rock of Ages. He was the lead on the West End's We Will Rock You. He's also one of the kindest human beings on the planet. Looking forward to that episode and sharing it with the world. Until now, stay safe, look after one another. Remember, life is better with music and life is better with failure. Bye for now.
1, 2, 3, 4. You piece of shit. Look, Mom, I'm failing. Look, Mom, I'm failing. Look, Mom, I'm failing. Hurry up and watch me fall.